It's time to make some breakout picks for the 2024 season, and we'll be kicking off with 5 pitchers I like. When I did this exercise last year, it did not go well. Carlos Carrasco, terrible. Lance Lynn, terrible. But now, it's time for me to redeem myself with 5 pitchers who I believe will exceed expectations in 2024. We'll kick things off with what has become a tradition in my breakout picks, one player who has not yet played at all in Major League Baseball. In previous years, they were Steven Kwan and Brandon Pfaadt, but for 2024, it's going to be Shota Imanaga, who represents a different breed of rookie. He's 30 years old and has pitched 8 seasons in Japan's NPB, so although he's making his MLB debut this year, he's no stranger to playing at the highest level a country has to offer. So, what's to like here? It's all about the stuff, simple as that. When Imanaga pitched for Japan in the World Baseball Classic a year ago, he had the best stuff plus in the entire tournament, according to Ino Sarris's model, higher than fellow Samurai Japan teammates Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani. And while those two superstars combined for over $1 billion on the free agent market with the Dodgers, Shota Imanaga quietly joined the Cubs on a 4-year, $53 million deal that looks cheap by comparison. Fans in Chicago's North Side can look forward to his unicorn fastball. Seriously, standing in at just 5'10" and releasing very low to the ground, there isn't a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball who can match his combination of low release and high induced vertical break. He doesn't have elite velocity, but he does have elite wonkiness. He has a bevy of secondary pitches to play off that fastball, but it really is the star of the show. In NPB, he generally threw it low in the zone, but he'll find more swing and miss if he can locate his fastball higher to play up the flat vertical approach angle. In doing so, however, he may expose himself to more fly balls, and given that home runs were his chief weakness with Yokohama and the windy confines of Wrigley, the long ball could be his undoing. But if he keeps his home run rate under control, I think he'll go ahead and have one of the better strikeout to walk ratios in the league. You gotta believe in the stuff, right? Shota Imanaga has it, and that's why I like him for 2024. From one lefty new to MLB to one gearing up for his 14th season, I like Chris Sale this year. Last year with the Red Sox, he started 20 games and tossed 102 innings. For many, this would be a disappointing workload, but it was actually the most he'd pitched since 2019. As Sale moves from Boston to Atlanta in a swap for Vaughn Grissom, any discussions about the Southpaw entering his age 35 season are prefaced with the word if, specifically if he pitches or if he stays healthy. The primary risk here is injury, not underperformance, because when he's actually pitched, he's looked pretty good. Between 2021 and 2023, he started 31 games, struck out 29% of the batters he's faced, and maintained an ERA and FIP below 4. If he were to do those things in 2024, the Braves would be very happy to have him indeed. Speaking of the Braves, they went ahead and extended Sale's contract, which was originally set to expire at the season's end, shortly after acquiring him. I don't know if that means the physical was awesome, or if it's simply how the Braves operate, but their record with these types of transactions is pretty spotless. In addition to the homegrown talent they've extended, there's been no hesitation in immediately paying veterans acquired via trade, like Matt Olson and Sean Murphy. Sale is just next in that line, and if injury is the chief risk factor here, as bad as his history is, that's actually a pretty easy pill to swallow when making a breakout pick. I tend to believe that injuries aren't as predictable as most fans think, even for skinny old pitchers who contort their body in an uncomfortable manner every time they throw, and that's why I like Chris Sale for 2024, because if he pitches, he'll probably be pretty good. After a big league cup of coffee in 2022, Louie Varland's rookie season with the Twins in 2023 was pretty forgettable. He was first called up in April and had a serious run in the rotation in May and June before being demoted back to AAA St. Paul, where he remained until September until finishing out the year in the bigs as a multi-inning relief option. Now, I'll be very clear here. I'm making this pick for Louie Varland as a starter, and that's despite the fact he had a 5.30 ERA and 5.49 FIP as a starting pitcher for the Twins last year. Those numbers were a result of allowing 14 home runs in just 56 innings, some of which seems to be the result of rotten luck. Over 20% of his fly balls left the yard, the 4th highest rate among starters with at least 50 innings pitched. I think his luck will improve because I believe in his arsenal. He averaged 95 miles per hour on his four-seam fastball as a starter, but thanks to nearly 7 feet of extension off the mound, it was more like 96 in terms of perceived velocity. His slider, meanwhile, was hit hard last year, but it has big movement relative to its 84 mile per hour velocity, featuring more horizontal and vertical break than expected. He rounds things out with a cutter that might just be his best pitch, and a changeup that, well, exists. With Lopez, Ryan, and Ober locked into the Twins' rotation, Varland will be competing with the likes of Anthony DeSclafani and Chris Paddock for a spot towards the back end, not to mention a strong group of prospects in AAA, but I just can't help myself. I like Louie Varland, and if he doesn't have a spot by opening day, I think he'll find his way there soon enough. Woo! If you haven't been following the Bryan Woo story, let me get you up to pace. This is a guy who had a 6.36 ERA in college for the Cal Poly Mustangs of the Big West Conference, yet was drafted by the Mariners in 2021 in the 6th round purely because they liked his stuff regardless of results. After lighting up the Arizona Fall League in 2022 and AA in early 2023, he made his big league debut on June 3rd last year and stuck around to make 18 starts for Seattle. The results were perfectly average, a 4.21 ERA and 4.36 FIP, not exactly setting the league ablaze, but not too shabby either. So, what did the Mariners see in Woo 3 years ago? How did they turn a guy who struggled in college into an extremely valuable asset? Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Bryan Woo has that all-important ability to throw a four-seam fastball with ride from a lowish release point. Pitch gets released low, ends up high, and the batter struggles with the flat plane. And while he threw it more to lefties, he has a brutal sinker primarily for right-handed hitters, thrown 95 miles per hour with over 16 inches of horizontal break. It's the real deal. For Woo to make a big jump this year, he'll need to find a way to deal with left-handed hitters, who had an absurd 928 OPS against him in 2023. His sweeping slider probably isn't the answer, but his emerging cutter might be. He also dabbled with a changeup, but it's all over the place. Although Bryce Miller and even Emerson Hancock have also positioned themselves to complement Seattle's big three of Castillo, Kirby, and Gilbert, I really think Bryan Woo will be the next Mariners pitcher to truly break out. I'm all aboard the Bryan Woo train in 2024. Finally, it's time for my reliever breakout pick, and I'm going with Ryan Walker of the San Francisco Giants. If you look at his numbers from his rookie 2023 season, you might make the argument he already has, boasting a 3.23 ERA in 61 innings pitched, but I think he has even more to offer than that. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Although Ryan Walker technically started 13 games for the Giants last year, those were as an opener. He's a reliever, but he's not strictly a one-inning guy. He got 4 or more outs in 16 appearances last year and 7 outs in 5, but whether it was as an opener, middle reliever, or setup man, Walker excelled, and I think that versatility might lend itself to appearing in more high-leverage spots in 2024, giving him a chance to improve on his somewhat inconsequential plus .4 win probability added last year. Here's what I like about Walker. What he does is actually pretty simple. He throws 2 pitches, their usage is basically a perfect 50-50, the handedness of the hitter does not matter, you're getting either a 95 mile per hour sinker or 83 mile per hour sweeper, and that basically turns every at-bat into a guessing game. Will the pitch go 83 or 95? Will the pitch go left or right? The problem is, hitters can't really make an educated guess because his sinker and sweeper benefit from what is called spin mirroring. Basically, they spin in perfectly opposite directions, which makes picking up that spin darn near impossible. They also both play with the seam-shifted wake effect. It's been an arduous journey for Walker, who was drafted in the 31st round of the 2018 draft and made his big league debut last year at the age of 27, but I think he's legit. He struck out just under 30% of Major League batters faced last year, and those that made contact did not fare well at all, as his batted ball profile featured an extremely low 85 mile per hour average exit velocity and 4% barrel rate. Sure, Camilo Doval is the closer, that's been established, but Ryan Walker could end up being the second most pivotal option in the Giants bullpen. Those were my 5 pitchers I like for the 2024 season. When the dust is settled, we'll look back at these picks and grade where I was right and where I went terribly, terribly wrong. And one tool that's always great for assessing and contextualizing those performances is going to be Stathead, the stat research tool from the fine folks at Sports Reference. I use it for just about everything I do, including looking at the top MLB rookie seasons among pitchers born in Japan. Hopefully Shota Imanaga ends up ranking really highly on this list. Check out my Stathead tutorial down below and use code FOOLISH20 at checkout for 20% off your Stathead annual subscription. Trust me, the season is coming up and you're really gonna want Stathead.